All right, I'm recording.
Okay.
So, you remember how in like Borat does this thing where like he hates Jews?
Right.
I'm kind of the same way, except instead of hating Jews, I hate people with blue check marks on Twitter.
Okay.
You don't use Twitter, do you?
No, not at all.
So, a blue check mark on Twitter originally was to verify that it basically was a mark that was a verified account, that the person who owned the account
Is actually who they
is
say
actually
they
who
are.
that person is.
Oh, that's neat, I guess.
Yeah. So generally, originally when that was implemented, things like things like politicians and Hollywood actors, and then some journalists. These would be the kind of people who would get this sort of thing. Do you remember the name Milo Yiannopoulos?
No, but that's a funny name.
It is a funny name. Milo Yiannopoulos is a very gay man who got famous by basically pandering to Republicans back before Trump. I think even when Obama was president. That's how far back he went.
That's starting to sound familiar.
Yeah, he was very gay and very flamboyant, and like Republicans.
Like blonde hair.
Yeah, blonde hair. Always wore big sunglasses. Sometimes wore like leather stuff to
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
The reason I bring him up is because he was the first time that the blue check mark ever was used not as verification but as a status symbol. Because at one point during his 15 minutes of fame, they took away his verification mark, his blue check mark on Twitter.
Why'd they do that?
Good question, considering that the blue check mark is supposed to be verified. But they basically took it away as punishment. And so that set a standard that basically it's a sign of, it's a badge of honor rather than you being verified.
Well, that's stupid.
It's incredibly stupid.
That's if it's originally put there to show that this is who they say they are, then it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. And
so if they say something stupid, it's actually them.
Yeah, exactly. See, I hadn't thought about it like that before. Like, oh no, this isn't Milo Yiannopoulos, it's some guy pretending to be him. But that was the first time that people ever began to realize that it wasn't for verification anymore, it was a status symbol. So now for the last couple of years, they haven't really been giving out blue check marks to anybody who applied. They would only give them to like Hollywood actors specifically, and like for some reason, small-time journalists, people with like 5,000 followers who write for some blog. But you have people like PewDiePie who could not get a blue verification. He couldn't get one. A lot of YouTubers with millions of subscribers.
Famous.
He couldn't get one for a long time. And it only happened until just this year they started giving them away.
But it shouldn't matter because it should just be about verification. It shouldn't be a status thing. That's just dumb.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, is that you have someone like PewDiePie who couldn't get a blue check mark, YouTubers with millions, but then you have small-time journalists and bloggers who could. And so people began to notice a trend with all these people who have check marks. They say some of the dumbest shit online. They say some of the absolute dumbest shit. You can guarantee if someone has a blue check mark next to their name, you can go and like look, close your eyes, pick a tweet at random, and it is some dumb, unaware, out of touch, self-absorbed shit. Generally it's political stuff, and like there are dumbasses on both sides of the aisle. I know for some reason that's controversial, but you find journalists, small-time journalists end up being the ones who get in trouble for being dumbasses a lot, because small-time journalists they just they get to the point where like they have the verification, and they think that they're fucking big. Because you know who else has verification? Fucking Hollywood celebrities. I'm fucking big. I can say whatever the fuck I want to now. So they just kind of like let it get to their heads. The reason I bring them up, and blue check marks in general, is because blue check marks, I'm referring to them as blue check marks, they're kind of dumb. There are two things really that have been going on this week I wanted to talk to you about. First one is going to be a much quicker topic, so I'm going to start with that one. What do you think about the idea of having a mandatory ID, like in order to create a social media account? So you have to basically upload your ID, and you have to prove who you are. You can't use a fake name on social media sites.
So initially it's like, okay, that's cool because you can hold that person accountable, but I feel like that could also go against someone because, like, what about identification fraud and stuff like that? What if they get a hold of our hackers, you know? Like, I could see that going south pretty quick. The idea of it initially sounds cool, but the technicality maybe not so much.
See, here's the thing, though, is that, like, if you... It does sound like it makes sense if you don't think about it for more than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
The problem here is that blue check marks tend to not be able to think for more than one. So we have... Recently, England lost the football soccer game or something. Have you heard about that?
No, I don't.
I don't follow sports ball, but soccer is football is very important to Europe and South America, and it's super important to England. And they lost to Italy, and so there was
Italy.
Well, careful! The Brits are going to come burn our house down.
Oh no.
I mean, I think we're probably safe because they're too busy like beating their wives and riding in the streets in order to actually come over here. What started this whole thing about wanting to have verification on social media is that there were 3 players who had penalty kicks, and there were 5 total. 2 of them made it, and 3 of them did not. Now, there's a difference between the 2 players who did and the 3 who didn't. You get one guess as to the difference between the 2 players who did and the 3 who didn't.
Blue check?
No.
Oh.
Okay, I feel like I actually walked you into that one.
Yeah.
No. The 3 players who missed were black.
Oh.
So you had a lot of English fans this week who have been very liberal with the use of the N-word online, and they've been harassing them. Which has been leading to a lot of British, European blue check marks, putting up petitions and getting the word out that we definitely need to make sure that we hold all of these online internet racists accountable. Noble goal, holding racists accountable. Again, kind of a bad idea. For so many reasons, like you already said, there's a lot of like identity theft and fraud issues that could be. Can you imagine like a company like Twitter having to like comply with holding on to the IDs of like hundreds of millions of people who want to use Twitter, and then they have like some sort of security break, and then someone steals all the identities or like steals all their personal information? Can you imagine what a shit show that would be for Twitter?
Yeah.
It's just... There's that. There's also Justin Wang actually has been on this a lot. Justin Wang, because he's like an old school 4chaner, and he's been on message boards and stuff. And he's been
4chan.
and so for him, he looks at this as like someone crying to the mods because somebody was being mean to him, being mean to them. And so he brought up a bunch of good points. Like for example, marginalized communities, people like trans people, gay people who are not out, having to upload their identity. And then can you imagine like people who are not out but they want to be open about gay things on the internet, and then they can't do that with a fake name. They have to use their real name. And
plus it could also make it easier for other people to target those people.
Exactly. It's dangerous.
Which I wish that wasn't a problem, but people are hateful.
People suck, and people suck, and they're some absolute dumbasses are like, yeah, we can definitely fix racism by making sure that if people are going to be racist, they have to use their real name. All right, here's the thing though. A lot of people are actually really cool with being openly racist, so that's not going to stop that problem. You also have things like journalists who like real journalists, not like bloggers. People who go into like war zones and take footage and try and upload that. They can't use with this sort of thing. They can't use can't use a fake name to hide their identity.
Right.
So that's a thing that's going on. Ballpark guess: how many people do you think have signed this petition?
Well, what is the limit on the petition? Like, do they have a goal that they're trying to reach?
I haven't seen what the goal is, but I will say that it is... currently it is less than 1 million and more than 100,000.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. 500,000?
A little lower.
Okay. 400,000.
A little lower.
300,000.
300,000.
Okay.
That was as of yesterday.
That's still a lot, though.
That is an absolutely surprising amount. Can you just like think about how much people have been complaining about capitalism and big corporations, and then also thinking, yes, I want them to have my personal information.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, sounds good, but I see a lot of flaws that could come with it.
Yeah, you know,
so
if you don't
unless they
think
could iron that out, but
yeah. I have a funny opinion about all of this. I think it would be better for the internet as a whole. Hear me out. It'd be better for the internet as a whole if this actually did end up being a thing. Here's my reasoning. It would kill social media if this sort of thing happened. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That is an absolute good thing. The only social media...
I would miss Facebook.
No, here's the thing. You'd still be able to use Facebook, but you're already using your real name on there anyway, right?
Yeah, true.
So here's the thing. Things like places like Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. That would suck for me. I don't want to use my real name on YouTube because people are crazy on YouTube. But here's the thing. In general, it would be good if social media died because I see that as a return to like back to the way the internet was like during 15 years ago, where instead of having like 3 websites you go to, you went to like 10 different forums, and there's small communities, and everything was better that way.
Yeah.
So that would weird argument, but I think that would be good for the internet. Bad for people. Good for the internet as a whole if that sort of thing were to happen. So that was the first thing that's been going on. The second thing that's been going on.
That was the short one?
That was a short one. Here's a short one. You good?
Yeah, just dying.
Yeah, that was a short one. I'm gonna start off with another question into the topic, like I usually do. Do you think that all video games should have an easy mode?
I mean, since I am also kind of a handicapped player, yeah.
Do you think every video game should have an invincibility mode?
What's that?
A mode where you can't take damage, you can just play the game without having to worry about failing. Do you think every video game should have that?
It'd be nice, because, like, most of the time, I know with me, I just want to know the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up having to watch you, which at least you're good. You can go through things fairly quick. So I can get the story and not lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, no. They keep trying over and over and over, and it's like, I just want the story, man.
Do you think a game like Dark Souls should have an invincibility mode? A game where the difficulty is the intention?
No. I feel like it's more for, like, ones with storylines, more, more in depth,
So you think so you would say that for, like, RPGs, for, like, story-based games,
yeah,
as opposed to, like, action fighting games?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. The reason I ask you that is because I want to get kind of a gauge, because the other thing the internet is mad about right now is is this conversation about whether all video games should or should not have an invincibility mode. See, we've moved away from the argument about all games having difficulty sliders into now whether or not every game should have an invincibility mode. So there's this game called Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is a sequel to a game, Psychonauts 1. Psychonauts, the original, that came out like 15 years ago, I think. They put out Psychonauts 2 a few years ago, and then they recently released a mode where you can go through and you can put on invincibility mode. And so when doing this, the director of Take-Two, a man who was liked by nobody else in the industry for mismanaging projects, stealing money, crowdfunding a game and then selling it to Microsoft anyway, and generally just kind of being an asshole, came out, and after he announced that there was an invincibility mode, started bullying people on Twitter who think that you should just learn how to get better at video games. There's this phrase, get good, and if you say that to a video game journalist, it causes, like, all their hair to fall out, their necks to, like, lengthen, and they just shriek uncontrollably. Do you remember? Do you remember when Cuphead came out? There was that big hubbub about this game journalist, who couldn't beat the tutorial stage.
No, but I know Cuphead.
Yeah, so Cuphead, when it came out, there's a guy, Dean Takahashi. He is notorious for being really bad at video games and also being a games journalist. He is so bad at video games, he could not beat the tutorial for Cuphead. Now, this wasn't even a particularly hard part about the tutorial. This was like still learning the controls. The part that he could not get past is where you have to, so there's a jump button and a dash button. And then you can like jump and dash at the same time. And Dean Takahashi could not, for like 6 minutes straight, manage this feat. There were a lot of jokes about how bad he is, and there were a lot of side-by-side comparisons where people who were Dean's age would sit their 5-year-old children down with a controller and then watch them beat it on their first or second try. And they just put that side-by-side next to the video of him failing for 6 minutes.
So I understand that because I am also that horrible. So, like, I can watch somebody else play, like, the 5-year-old play Guitar Hero and, like, jam out, and I'm just like...
Here's the difference between you and Dean Takahashi, though.
But I'm not a video game journalist.
There you go. There you go. You don't get paid to write video game reviews.
But I can understand wanting to do something that you might not be good at, but you kind of have to get good at it.
Did you say get good? Did you say get good? I can't believe you would ever insist that somebody actually take the time to learn how to play the game they want to beat. I'll admit I got into way too many Twitter fights over the last couple of days with people who just seem to have no shame and insist that the game actually changed for them. And on one hand, people will say, well, we're not asking for the whole game to be invincible, just for the option. And I say... That's fair.
Yeah.
If you actually do like the game, though, you should still learn how to get better at it instead of having it just not challenge you. You should not have the game be unfailable.
Mind you, though, this is also coming from the person who, like, if I get frustrated enough, I'll just put it down and won't come back for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then by then I'm bored with it.
That's fair. Do you think it's do you think that it's fair to say that some video games aren't meant for everybody?
Yeah.
Do you think that if somebody... An argument I've seen a lot is that you are making the game less inclusive by not including an invincibility feature. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah. I could see that, I guess. I mean, it would just be an optional thing, you know? If people are really wanting to do it, you know, why not just fucking do it?
I have a funny story about the first time that I ever cheated at a video game.
Oh?
So, I had a Sega Genesis. That was my first system.
Right.
And the Sega Genesis, when I got it, I had Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin, I believe, was a port from an arcade game, because instead of lives, it said you had credits. So, it got to the point, as most arcade machines do, where they ramp up the difficulty to an unreasonable level to get you to put more money in. It got to the point where if you died and you lose all your power-ups, you don't do enough damage to the enemies, and they don't drop enough for you to ever catch back up. So my brother and I, we said, we want to see how this game ends. So what we did was we put in the cheat code to skip the last 3 levels.
Oh.
So we skipped the last 3 levels, and then we got to the end of the game, and I feel like this was my punishment for cheating, because our reward for beating the game was a still image of Dr. Freeze standing inside Arkham Asylum saying, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." And that was it. I felt cheated, and I felt like... See, here's the thing, like, I didn't feel like... Maybe not cheated. I felt like my punishment for cheating was having such a shitty ending.
So... wouldn't it have been the same, though, if you hadn't cheated? And then you would have done all that work, and then you'd still get a shitty ending.
I would at least feel good about actually beating the game myself. I personally can't understand playing a game where challenge is part of it, where challenge is part of the gameplay, and then taking the challenge out. Now, like... Maybe if I was playing like Minecraft Creative and I'm like building a mountain or something for fun, but I'm not taking the challenge out of anything by doing that. It's just like that's kind of what everyone's mad about this time. This week is the argument that every game should have an invincibility mode. I guess I understand where you're coming from because you do suck ass at video games.
Yeah, I do.
But where I also come from is I don't feel like any video game company should be pressured into adding this sort of mode.
Yeah, I think it's up to them.
Yeah.
But I think they should also want to feel like they want to include their players.
Here's the thing. I don't feel like anybody's actually excluded because I've never played a video game where they said, you can't play this. You're not allowed to play this if you're bad at video games.
Yeah, but who wants to play if they're bad at video games?
Have you ever played a game and then you just sucked at it and you're like, I don't want to play this anymore?
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe the game just wasn't for you. Have you ever played a game where you just decided?
Well, then there's a lot of games that aren't for me. Like I wouldn't be able to get most of the storylines, and that's why I watch you.
Well, here's the thing: if you weren't so easily frustrated and stubborn, and you took the time to get better at, do you think it's fair to say that if you took the time to get better at the game, if you took the time to practice, you could get better at the game and see it for yourself?
I think what it came down to with me is like anger management because I'd get ready to fling shit, and Mom would be like, "Holy shit! I just paid a lot of fucking money for this, expensive ass piece of toy that you wanted so bad. Don't be flinging it." And I'm over here like, Becca, mad Rex.
Maybe hard video games aren't for you then.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like what really gets me about this is that I don't have a problem with people who are bad at video games. I have a problem with people who want the game to change because they refuse to try and get better. I think that's where my frustration with all of this comes.
I think it would be a good idea for the companies, though, to include that option so more people would buy it. I mean, from a company, from a monetary standpoint, it would be smart.
I guess.
It would bring in more money because more people would want to play it because more people could play it.
Do you think less people would play a video game if it had a win button? Would you play a game where there was just a win button and you just turn on a mode where you can't lose? Would you play a game? Would you feel fulfilled by that?
It really depends. Like I said, most of the time what I want from a game is a story. So it's basically like a movie for me. So if it was difficult enough and I couldn't get the story or enjoy it, then I would want that. Yeah. Okay.
But not for action games. Maybe like Sonic or Dark Souls.
I've never been interested in those at all.
Okay.
I like Spyro and stuff like that. And for when I was younger, I was shit at those. But I still stuck along with them. Those were ones that I'd come back after a month, because those were ones I'd get bad at. But I don't know, Dark Souls and all that's never interested me. But I'm sure if there was something, that would be interesting, I would like to, I guess. Now, if it's something like Smash Brothers or something, like you're competing with somebody else, that would be stupid. That would make no sense. Like, that's a get good game. Because you're competing with your friends. You can't just be like, oh, I'm invincible. I'm always going to win because I've got that option. That's dumb.
All right. I'm going to run a list of games by you. I want your opinion, yes or no, for invincibility mode. Okay. All right. Final Fantasy 15.
That's a story one, so yeah.
Okay. Dark Souls.
Does it have a story, really?
It's all environmental, but the gameplay is the focus, not the story.
I mean, the surrounding and stuff is kind of cool, like the graphics and stuff, but no.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Invincibility mode or no? There is no good story in any Sonic game.
No. That one's kind of a get good game, and that's kind of the incentive for that one.
Spyro the Dragon?
That would have been nice when I was younger. Because there is a little bit of story there. But I did actually get good with it, so that's cool.
So you are capable of getting good.
Yeah. I am capable if I put some effort into it. Yeah, but
Okay.
who wants to put effort into?
Who wants to get better at a game they enjoy?
Well, like, I don't know. I want it to feel like enjoyment and
Getting
not
good
work.
isn't fun. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah,
Maybe video games aren't for you.
I think that's what it boils down to, really.
All right, I have one final question for you. There are videos of people who have replaced controllers with sensors on bananas and have beaten Dark Souls. I'm not even fucking with you. There are people who've made custom controllers out of bananas with sensors tied to them, and they have beaten Dark Souls with the banana controllers.
That's ridiculous.
Do you think that if somebody can do that, there is any excuse for a games journalist who is paid to review video games to not be able to play video games?
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, sure, there are people out there that are very passionate about it, you know, so they're going to feel more towards it and do more towards it. And if you really have a strong passion for it, then you would think that you would work more towards it. Like, it's something that you would like to be good at, you enjoy doing. I can understand where it gets tiring, like with me, but I also have like a really low patience.
All right, so to summarize, video game journalists should be able to play video games.
I mean, it brings up this in your job description, no?
Okay, I'm good.
I mean,
even if we can't disagree on invincibility modes, I'm at least glad that we can agree on the most simple concept that video game journalists should be able to beat video games.
yeah, I don't understand how he still has a job. I mean, unless it was like video game journalist plays video games bad, and that's like his in because he doesn't play video games well.
I want to be a little fair to Dean Takahashi, because when he released the absolutely embarrassing video, he actually was a good sport about it and laughed at how bad he was.
Well, see, that's good, you know.
But he's not the only one who's like this. The thing is that he's not the only one who like this, and he's also done like. Oh crap! I was gonna say. I'm gonna be fair to him. Actually, here's another reason he fucked up. When he did his playthrough and review of Mass Effect 1, he skipped through all the tutorials and said the game was too hard, but he also at no point figured out how to like upgrade his stats or guns. So then he ended up retracting the review. That's why you're not a video game journalist.
Yeah, I would never do that.
All right.
It's like, oh, reading.
All right, you heard it here first. Becca would not make a good video game journalist. Although, to be fair to you, neither do actual video game journalists.
Oh my god.
All right.